We'll just we'll just start talking, and well, I'll make logical sense of the conversation, I guess.
Okay, what are we gonna talk about? Like related to my newest video, or?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I came across your video on your Twitter about 5 minutes ago, and just watched it, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And then I like had a look, obviously, at your Twitter, your profile on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident I'm not going to be able to offend you at all, since I mean, you self-identify as a tranny.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say you have a pretty thick skin?
Oh yeah, there's nothing off limits for me whatsoever.
So, obviously, you know, you've got a YouTube channel. Blaire White is your name for the listeners, obviously. Just to do something of an introduction. I'm curious to ask, how long have you been on YouTube for?
I've been doing it for, I think my first video was like on December 6th or something, so about 3 months.
Oh wow! Oh, so recent, really recent. Oh wow! Oh cool. Yeah. So, because as I said to you, I mean, I interviewed Milo Yiannopoulos like late December last year.
Uh-huh.
So, before he broke the internet.
Yeah, love Milo.
Yeah, he's amazing. So have you been kind of, because I've been doing this, I'll probably actually throw it on this channel. I've been doing a kind of Milo tour update sort of podcast on YouTube, and just kind of, it's been really interesting. I don't know if, have you been watching the stuff on YouTube that's been coming out?
Yeah, I only sat through one full video of his talk, and that was the one with based mommy
Oh,
Christina.
Christina Summers. Oh, I have to talk to her at some point, hey.
Yeah, I hope you do. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, just like how tame what he's actually saying is,
I
and
know.
how,
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
yeah,
I literally said this to someone the other day. I was like, why is he so offensive? I was like, he's literally just advocating free speech, right?
yeah, and the way that people are reacting, you would think he was up there talking about like some crazy shit, but he's really not.
So I'm curious to ask Blair, from your perspective, like, well, I mean, I did notice. I mean, there was actually, I think it was at the event that Milo did with Julie Bindel. There was actually a transgender person that came up at the very end and
Um,
basically said something to the effect of, you know, this transgender movement is not representing me at all. I just wondered, do you kind of echo those sentiments, or where would you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've actually talked to Milo about doing. He posted that he wanted to do a stream
Oh, I
with,
saw that. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and we were supposed to do that. I think we're still doing it. He got really busy with his tour,
Oh,
obviously,
he's
and
so crazy busy.
yeah, but
I
I'm
tweeted it
hoping that
before. I
still
said, I know
happens.
you're so busy, Milo. I'm feeling neglected, but I understand.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that still happens. But yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. I feel like LGBT lobby, I guess it's like LGBTQIAZ37, whatever, everything.
It's getting
It's a
so hard
huge
to
list.
keep up with.
It really is, and you would think that someone like me would be able to keep up with it, but I really can't. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and of course, the politicization of the trans identity is something that I find really,
It's very
really
political,
frustrating.
isn't it? It's almost
It's
like
very
it's
political.
being used as such a tool, you know?
Yeah, that's what I talked about in my video. That obviously there are some people who are legitimately transgender, but I feel like there's this huge onslaught of people in this time that are appropriating, that's a funny word, but appropriating kind of the trans identity. And I mean, you want to talk about real appropriation, these people are going around calling themselves trans and they're fucking not.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nutty, yeah. It's so nutty.
yeah, and it's what I explained in my video is that it's a total reach for oppression points, because
Yeah.
in any political discourse, you instantly have the upper hand because you're able to call out the other person
Oh,
as a
exactly.
sexist or a transphobe or whatever.
I
And
yeah.
the world kind of like carves out a safe space for you. That's kind of the climate we're in. If you're a victim of something, a victim,
Yeah.
then yeah.
I joked with somebody recently about sort of making this kind of, you know, satire SJW video where I kind of just list all the reasons I could be a victim, sort of thing, you know. Just you know, just my like just tally up all my oppression points, you know.
Yeah. I'm convinced they really do see it this way. I mean,
Oh, they do. They
and
absolutely do.
and the way that you know it's a political tactic is because you will very, very rarely meet anyone, and trust me, I've met people who identify as non-binary or gender fluid, and they go by they them pronouns. Like, I've met a good amount of people who identify that
Yeah,
way. And
at a guess, how many pronouns are there at this point in time?
I have no idea. I just pay attention to he and she, and if I see someone who I don't know, I will use
Anyone
they just to
listening want
save
to give
my
us
own
a
ass.
ballpark figure?
Yeah, but the thing is, you'll very rarely meet someone who identifies that way who's not a political activist, or
Yeah.
who doesn't have, a horse in the race as far as gender politics. So that's
Yeah,
what it is.
it's interesting. I just had a bit of a, a bit of a debacle on Twitter with a woman named Vicky Beeching. She's actually in the UK. She's a progressive sort of Christian artist and author and journalist sort of thing. I'm sure she's well aware. She must be well aware of what is going on with Milo. But she came out as gay a number of years ago, and she sort of tweeted about, oh, I'm thinking of cutting my hair short, and oh no, I'm going to get all the stereotypes about it. And I actually tweeted her. I was like, oh, the oppression of it all. Like,
I know. It's
you
like
poor
if the
little
biggest,
delicate flower.
if the worst thing to happen to you is that people are gonna, assume things about you because of your hair. I mean,
But
just
just to say, I mean, now that I've brought her up by name, I just want to clarify, and this is what annoys me the most, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because what really gets me in this whole movement is not the sort of mindless drones that are just buying into this shit, but it's decent people. Like, I respect Vicky Beeching. I think she's amazing. Her story is incredible. And I really have a lot. And it's funny. I had like a 3-hour Skype call. I got a twin brother. He actually, funny enough, lives in Turkey, of all places. And he's kind of seen me come out and start talking about these issues and get on board with what Milo's talking about in free speech. And he's just like, I sort of have to convince him that I'm not the worst person in the world.
right. It's insane. I've been demonized pretty heavily for my videos. I've lost quite a few friends in real life because of them.
Yeah, can we talk? I want to be really, respectful of you, obviously, but I'm keen to hear you talk about your real life experiences, because obviously online is one thing. I mean, you can block people on Twitter, you can turn the computer off, as Lauren Southern points us in the direction of that idea. But what is your, can you talk a little bit about your life from day to day and your experiences, and what you go through, sort of thing?
Okay, well, first of all, I mean, people might not really realize this because my online life, I talk about being trans quite a bit because I have a channel dedicated to gender politics, so I feel like it's relevant. But in my day-to-day life, it's not really a huge part of my life. I don't think about it too often. My normal life is pretty not boring, but it's not spectacular,
Oh, don't
but
ruin the illusion.
sorry, I have an amazing life, and I wake up and I'm always, just on. But anyways, yeah, but the real life interactions that I've had in relation to my YouTube videos have been a little bit brutal. I've had someone approach me after a class at school once who wanted to have a discussion with me about feminism because they had seen my videos,
Oh, wow.
and they were actually roommates with someone who I was ex-friends with, and they went on this huge campaign to to ruin my reputation around town. And um, I've had people who I've known for years haul off and stop talking to me. It's really crazy because, again, same with what I think Milo's talking about. It's not like what I'm saying is not that crazy. And I think
Yeah,
it's crazy that people think it's crazy.
yeah. Isn't it interesting, when you've got this kind of victim narrative, this kind of victim Olympics, I've heard it said, where people are competing to be the most oppressed, that,
Uh-huh.
someone, like yourself who would fall into that, transgender community or identity, I don't even know what the right word to say is. Anyway, when you start disagreeing with the likes of feminism, that's got to create some interesting space for conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who will just flat out call me, they'll say, like, I have internalized transphobia. Like, that's a thing, and I
Just to
expect
make
with
something up, though, right?
it's really a thing. There was someone who said that
Oh,
this is why I don't. There was one girl who commented on my Facebook. She was like, "This is why I hate white trans women. All you want to do is suck white straight dick." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
oh my god,
Yeah,
it's
it's insane.
insane. That is
And
insane.
and you want to think of like a real group of people who have like some shit to overcome
Yeah,
in real life, and trans people definitely fall into that. But It's just a mentality you have to have. Like, I refuse to let myself ever be a victim. I do
Yeah.
feel like
Oh
victimhood.
man alive. I said man alive. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on. There's recently been going around on Twitter this sort of, because I talk about this on my podcast. I'm diagnosed as bipolar, which I don't even feel the need to really say, quite honestly. But I've had some quite serious mental health issues over the years. And there was a sort of hashtag that started on Twitter called "I'm not ashamed," and it was all about like end the stigma and all the stigma about mental health. And when you come across something and you just don't like it and you don't always know why straight away, it sort of got to me. I was like, why? What is it about this movement I don't like? And I was like, oh, they're just like they're just making everyone into perpetual victims.
Right.
And the thing is, like, my experience with mental health, for example, my friends and family have been nothing but amazing to me. Like, I've not suffered stigma at all. And I'm not saying I'm not denying that others may have, for sure. But it just, when somebody tries to tell you you're a victim when you're actually not, that's so disempowering.
It really is, and I feel like that's a huge problem with the trans community. I feel like so many people allow victimhood to be their identity. It's like they identify as not just transgender, but they identify as a victim, and it's really toxic because it impedes
Yeah.
actually succeeding in life. Because I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there haven't been certain disadvantages that I've faced in life as far as being trans. I'm 99% sure I've been denied some jobs because of it.
Yeah.
But people get denied jobs for all kinds of reasons, and you're not special just because you have this one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
There are people who are born as fucking like conjoined twins, and there are people who are born without an arm. Like, there's a long list of reasons why someone might have it kind of hard in life, and in my opinion, trans is one of them. But it's not the end all be all of your life.
Yeah, sure. Now I know you did say in your video that you didn't want to talk about this whole otherkin nonsense, but I have to bring it up because I'm going to send this to my twin brother James,
Okay.
and he doesn't have a clue about any of this kind of shit. He just doesn't even know this is a real thing. Can you maybe just let's for 30 seconds maybe or a minute? Can you kind of give a thumbnail sketch, because I'm pretty into it. What is otherkin?
Okay, let's just get into it. Otherkin is this group of people, and you would expect it would just be Tumblrites, but it truly is not. You can look it up on YouTube. There's actual groups in real life of people who are self-identified as
I saw a
otherkin.
woman who dressed as a cat.
Oh god, it grossed me out. They identify as animals, sometimes as like mythological creatures. It's really insane. And what's interesting is the thing about them is they always self-identify as something like really grand. Like, they'll identify as like a unicorn or like a dragon or like a pretty like cute kitty, but like never, like, you never see like an anteater or like a platypus or like or like even like a cockroach.
Milo talked about this with the Drunken Peasants podcast.
Uh-huh.
Did you hear that at all?
No, I didn't.
They would no. Well, it's funny you didn't hear it because they were saying exactly what you just said. Was that they're always these big grandiose things. They're never like platypuskin or blobfishkin or So, but it's funny, and I know you did talk a bit about well, I mean, Milo sort of reflected. I mean, obviously Milo identifies as Catholic, and he's got that religious element. And he was sort of saying to these guys, they're all a bunch of atheists, and he was essentially saying, look what happens when you eliminate religion. Look what happens. They form this, he was sort of, and I guess you may have some thoughts, but he was essentially saying, he was kind of reflecting on this human impulse that we have for need, for like this need for significance and importance, right? Uh-huh. And so people just literally start making shit up to be oppressed about or whatever. It just gets so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like there's like a lack of actual structural disadvantages to people these days, so they have to make new ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Milo was quoting that idea as well, saying that this millennial sort of generation is the first generation that literally has nothing to complain about, and so they're literally making things up to be pressed about.
We're all fucking sitting here on our iPhones tweeting about tweeting about end capitalism.
Yeah.
On our way to
The irony of using an iPhone to tweet about capitalism.
Yeah, on our way to our community college, where we get fucking Pell Grants for thousands of dollars, basically free. Like, there's nothing wrong with, like, just being complacent and realizing that you're fine and there's nothing to worry about. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there are things in the world to worry about, but the shit that I talk about, like the fucking non-binary shit, all that, you don't have to worry about any of that. Just another thing is, like, gender does not exist on a scale. What does exist on a scale is masculinity and femininity. So what I'm seeing is people feeling the need to, like, identify as each varying degree on this long scale, because it's true that no one is completely masculine or completely feminine, but
Oh, I'm the biggest pansy I know.
but we don't need words for every, like, section in between those two things, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. It is interesting, and it's such a nuanced discussion because, and I've talked to this. I mean, I grew up in a family with my two brothers, like just my mum, like without my dad, sort of a thing. And you can't tell me that that doesn't have an impact on your life, because it absolutely does. You know, there's so much nuance to this discussion, and it's amazing. And quite honestly, Blaire, I'm really glad to have this chat with you, because it's you know, and even this whole kind of, like, you know, even the acronym, like the LGBTQAII, whatever it's called now, it's sort of weird to me because, you know, I mean, if you want to say it, you know, like this, I mean, I'm a cis white male, so I'm this in part of the cis white male community, if you want to say it like that. But what the fuck does that even mean? That doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything. I have no other innate connection with this community other than my genitalia.
Yeah, and that's why I really, you know, when I was younger, a teenager, I definitely was more so part of the community aspect of being under that LGBT flag. But the older I got, the more I realized, like, I don't actually have anything in common with these people. You know,
You're not stuck with them. It's not like you're forced to be friends with these people.
Yeah, like we have the common connection and certain parallel life experiences because we're both trans or whatever, and that's something to talk about. But there's a certain point where, like, do we have anything else to talk about other than the fact that we're trannies? Like,
oh, that's offensive. You can't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. But it's like, can the conversation go past being trans? And a lot of times it can't. Sometimes it can, obviously. You can meet people in the weirdest of ways. You can find out you have, like...
So let's talk about that for a little bit, because I don't want to... I mean, I understand completely what you're saying, but for those that may not get what you're saying there, for those, like, because I want to... With these discussions, I'm really keen to kind of be a bridge and to create some space between people that wouldn't normally converse. And for those that can't see past these identity politics things, where would you say is the starting point? You know, from your perspective, like, how do we begin this conversation and get it past the kind of surface level?
Well, I think it's really important, and I don't want to sound self-important, but I think that my videos help a lot of people.
Shameless plug.
YouTube.com/BlaireWhiteX. So yeah, it's... I think
in the description.
I think it's really important to look at people as individuals rather than as a collective, because I don't believe that individualism is dead. I took a sociology class where the entire semester they were just shitting on individualism. They're saying there's no such thing and all. Anyways, the identity politics thing. It's important to understand that trans people in particular are not an invention of third wave feminism. Trans people have been around.
I've never heard that idea.
We're not. We've been around for so long. Like, I'm not going to say the beginning of history because I don't know. I don't think there's any archives of trans people.
So is there a kind of connection here between, because I know a lot of this, like, Black Lives Matter thing is, like, fueled by white guilt, essentially. Yeah. Is there an element to that with the trans community? Like, is there sort of, have they become the kind of pet, you know, kind of issue that the feminist movement has picked up, sort of a thing, or is that what's going on? Or
what do you mean?
Like, I mean, are they sort of like, is it being hijacked in a way? Like,
totally. I mean, in my opinion, gender politics is the game, and transgender people are the ball, and that's what feminists go by
Yeah,
trans
that's
being.
exactly what I was trying to get. I'm glad you got what I was saying there, because I was like, this conversation could have gone downhill. No.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
People really, the feminists use trans people as a political tactic, whether it's appropriating being trans or using them as an example of like, look at this.
Yeah.
You know, they'll say that trans women have a hard because of institutional trans misogyny or misogyny. So when a man becomes a woman, they suddenly have to go through things. And here's the thing: most trans women do not pass as women. They just don't. They don't look like women, and if they do, they have a body that maybe isn't particularly feminine, so they go out into the world and they're perceived by the world as a man. So when they're treated badly, they're not treated badly because they're a woman. They're treated badly because they, in the eyes of
Oh,
people, are
is
seen
that
as
what
this fucked up
feminist
man.
kind of rhetoric argues? Do they sort of say, oh, it's sexist?
It's a dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, it's not misogyny in my opinion. It's actually misandry. But it's definitely a tactic used by feminists, using trans people. But I think it's important for people to realize, since we're talking about building bridges here, if anyone wants to understand trans people better, you need to understand that although there are a lot of trans people who are feminists and extremely left-leaning, it really is not all of them. Trans people are often very spread apart. We don't actually have communities because, there are trans people. There's not a lot of us, and we're spread out. We don't have.
You're as human as the next person. Of course, it's going to be like that.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I think if you look anywhere online, except for maybe channels like my own, which
it's funny. I've seen I like Steven Crowder. He had a transgender on his show recently from Canada. Did you see that at all?
Yeah, it's my friend Theron. We're really good.
Oh, your friends. Oh, cool. Yeah, no. No, it was a great discussion, but the way the conversation was framed sort of bothered me a little bit, I have to be honest. Like, it's sort of like this, oh, look at me, I've got a tranny on my show. And I don't know. It's like what he wants to do, and that's fine.
Yeah. The thing is, Theron's tough, and she... even the title of the video was annoying to me, like the reasonable tranny. It's like,
yeah.
It's like we're okay with this
idea that they're unreasonable.
Yeah, it's like we're okay with this one, so we're gonna have this one, but we're still not gonna include her name in the title, so she won't get any hits. We're just gonna say the reasonable tranny.
And that's a little bit political to me.
Here's the thing: Steven Crowder is incredibly partisan. He has a total agenda to follow. He's not in the business of conceding to the realities or truths of transgenderism at all. He's very much in the business of appeasing all the commenters who are going to jump on and call Theron all types of names. And you know what? Theron's tough, and I think Theron did amazing on that podcast. I
really enjoyed that discussion.
In my opinion, she kind of made Steven look like a little bit of an idiot, but of course, none of the people commenting will see that. They'll just see a tranny and they'll think,
it's a bit what do they call it? Like Victorian kind of circus-ish behavior, really. Like, roll out the tranny, it's a bit horrible, really. I
didn't like it, but at the end of the day, I think Theron got a lot of hits from that, and her channel grew from that. So I don't think anyone's upset over it, and she came away from it thinking that it was a productive conversation. So
it was definitely a productive conversation. It's just the way it was framed.
Yeah, if it was me, it would have been a little bit less productive.
What do you mean by that? I'm curious to ask.
Well, because the reason she was on the show was because me and Steven had an argument on Twitter. I tweeted
scandal.
I tweeted Steven that I didn't like the way that he always talked about trans people, and if he's gonna have someone on, because he's had trans people on before Theron, but they're all fucking weirdos. Like,
oh yeah, he had the discussion with there was that lesbian woman, and who was
I don't even know, but it was some really
that was the most incredibly bizarre conversation I think I've ever come across in my life.
Yeah, but that goes back to what his agenda is, which is making it all look so bizarre, and which I think with Theron, he couldn't really make it look bizarre. Theron was incredibly reasonable. Theron's very intelligent, very level-headed. So we had to be like, oh, the reasonable train. Oh, it's like, stop.
Yeah.
But anyways,
just to tie this up, because we do need to wind down. But you did reflect in your video, and I'd be more than happy to chat again at some point. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been fascinating. But you talked about the idea of what's in someone's heart, and sort of you were alluding to the content of somebody's character, right? As opposed to their sexuality or their physiological, whatever. I don't even. I'm getting lost. Okay.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
around.
you have this aspect of identity politics. I think there's an echo on your end, by the way.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you have this aspect of identity politics, which is this phenomena of people all over caring way more about what you identify as and what you are rather than who you are, the content of your character, etc., which is so ironic
Yeah.
considering progressivism once was about the content of someone's character. Think Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I see.
those ideals are being
Isn't that
deconstructed.
his famous speech where he says that people care more about the content of your character than the color of your skin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I guess in closing, I mean, it's interesting because I'd love to hear thoughts on this. Because Milo talked to, I think it was the first event he did at the Rutgers University where the transgender issue came up. And he goes, you know what the reality is? He goes, I couldn't give a shit.
right.
He goes, I
And
couldn't give a shit. And I wonder, like, do you feel, as someone who identifies as transgender, for those who might get offended at the word tranny, do you feel the need for everybody to have an opinion on this?
no, it's not something. Here's the thing. Here's the difference between. It's going to sound a little bit off topic, but here's the difference between the West and the Middle East. In the West, we may have like a lot of differing opinions about like, oh, trannies are weird, whatever, but we have a general consensus that they should be left alone. When it comes to the Middle East, it's a different story. You will be fucking killed there. Although there's some countries where trans women are like highly fetishized and it's really weird. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, but the thing about the culture here is that it's actually starting to shift where people are actually feeling um, resentment towards trans people because the conversation has become so fucking annoying. And I mean, even for me, it's so hard to keep up with the new whatever is going on with trans people.
Yeah,
And
that was
it's just,
funny. You reflected that in your video. That did make me laugh.
yeah. And I mean, I should be able to keep up
I'm
with it, but I
transgender
can't.
and I can't even keep up with this shit.
No, I can't. And I totally agree with Milo that the dirty secret about all of this is that no one truly cares, but it's
Oh, I think,
become
yeah.
it's become political. I mean, obviously there are people who care about, trans rights and
Well, I
they
sort of reflected that just to tie it down. Sorry to jump in, but just to tie things together, with that tweet I had this morning with Vicky Beeching, when I actually tweeted Milo, I said, when you've got gay people complaining about being marginalized because of their haircut, I'm going, I think the gay issue's been won, right? Like, this is done and dusted.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
I
we can
think
put a
there's
bow on it.
yeah, I think there's still a little bit of ways to go with trans people, but
Oh,
this
no,
is
no,
the
yeah, no, sorry, I was just, to be
oh
clear,
yeah.
I'm explicitly talking about the gay issue out there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, totally. I think there's a little bit of ways to go with trans, but I do think this is the best time in human civilization history to be trans. I
yeah.
think
And can I just say in closing, like,
okay.
I'm someone that's been through a fair amount of rejection in my life, and quite honestly, it makes you a better person.
Yep, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
yeah, you realize what's important, and you realize that what other people say of you doesn't hold anything to what you say of yourself at the end of the day. And I actually had a good friend of mine sort of tweeting today about this idea of being your own best friend, right? Like, you've got to look after yourself, and you're never gonna like, what other people say of you doesn't even register compared to your own view of yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can be kicked down, but you choose to stay down or you choose to get up, and it's important to choose to get up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Blaire. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.
We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Cool.